I'd like to call to order the November 2nd, 2023 meeting of the NACUS Facility Research Advisory Committee. We are going to start with public comment.
Hi, Andrew.
So we have a couple people in the audience. Nobody online yet, but is there some public comment? Come on.
My name's Liz. I'm the outreach manager at Cannon Beach History Center and Museum. And I'd like to thank the committee for your time today and for letting us be in attendance. We really appreciate it.
For being here.
So yeah, thank you. So we at the museum hope that we can continue to feel included in project planning and not go over what we are in the community. And we are working very hard, like we mentioned last time, to expand on the Indigenous history, which has been in the works for some time. As stated in the last meeting, we have just received, we actually just got the funding for $11,000 to start phase 1 of our redesign project, which includes bringing the Native history to the forefront of the museum. So we'll be working with the class of Nehalem Federated Tribes to do that. So we're starting that process hopefully in the next month or so, which is really exciting. We feel that working together is essential in making sure that the space and the site plan complements the existing facilities that we already have, such as the museum, Tollivon Arts Colony, Coaster Theater, Cannon Beach Arts Association, and so on. And we're also putting together an event for next weekend. We're all working together, all the nonprofits, in honor of Native American Heritage Month. So check it out. It's available on, you can see it on our website or it's on our colony's website. It starts next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's going to be awesome to see the use of our spaces and what we're doing and how we can all collaborate together. So that's all I had. So
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Liz.
And I think we're going to be good for each other. I think we're going to send people your way and you're going to send people our way for more, and it's going to be good.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Al, you're here with the History Center?
I made him. I'm getting better at public speaking now.
You did a great job.
And still nobody online, so I think we're ready to go. But I'd like to start with a few comments. First, I want to update you on the project status. On October 19, the Design Review Board denied the architectural plan, the site plan, and the landscape plan for the NACUS facility as presented by CEDA. So what does that mean for the project? It means those denials will be appealed to City Council. And Council will determine the scope of that appeal next week. In other words, whether we're going to review just the materials on the record or whether we're going to accept additional materials and additional testimony. So we'll just be making that decision this next week, and then likely the appeal will be heard by council on December 5. And
December.
I mean, I can't say how I think, that's going to look, but I would expect that council is going to approve the plans at that meeting. So perhaps, maybe even likely with some conditions addressing some of the concerns of Design Review Board. But that's where we're at. I believe the community and council is in full support of this project. And so I thought we should just keep this work going. I don't think it's really going to be much of a delay. I think we can continue working with some momentum. Secondly, I would just like to say that I appreciate all of your voices on this committee. I think that you all have important perspective to share. I would like to make an appeal that we really stay focused on the issue at hand, which is to create something think, of significant value for this community. Something that's going to honor this historic cultural site, raise awareness of the amazing natural environment that we all get to enjoy. And so I just don't want to get distracted with anything personal. I think it reflects poorly on us. So kind and respectful is again something Barb points out at every council meeting. So I hope we can hold ourselves to a high standard and really get this done. And I know that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to agree. We can disagree, and this is not my project and it's not your project. It's a community project. And it's gotten to this point with a lot of public engagement. And I think anyone who's actually been following this process would see that we've actually listened and adjusted course along the way. So I just wanted to get some of that out. Let's get started with a review of some of the committee work. And as always, we'll try to keep this meeting to not more than an hour and a half. So let's see if we can be efficient. So let's begin the research discussion, and let's start with the Educational and Programming Committee.
Okay.
So you going to speak?
So I'm going to speak first, and then Les and Dick are going to be speaking. Les is going to be speaking about the calendar, and Dick is going to be speaking about the interpretive signage. And Les and I newer to full-time residents in the city, we weren't aware of the years of work that has gone into planning and creating a program that could highlight Coos Park. So as you can see from our report, there's been extensive research and collaboration over the years with tribal members, community members, and nonprofits, and how to spotlight the immense importance of Coos Park, working on ways to tell its unique story from a geologic, ecologic, and historic perspective. The center will be a vibrant asset to our community, a gathering place for school children, the world at large. When you enter Coos, you will be stepping into the past, going on your own core of discovery expedition, finding ways to use the knowledge of our elders to restore the balance of our natural systems. Center will a place that other nonprofits and groups from our community can use if they need extra space for workshops, events, and gatherings to enhance their work and missions. Collaboration, not competition, a welcoming place as it welcomed travelers for centuries and school children for generations. Coos will enhance a sense of community for residents and visitors alike, with new opportunities for all-weather recreation, exercise, markets, and fairs. A little to no cost, these events will be open to all. Through education, we gain respect for this unique place we call home. Through events and shared activities, we will come to know the value of each other, strengthening our community spirit. When we looked at the history of the people that have been actively creating the way the vision has come to be, it's just amazing how many of those aspects have come to life. And so I hope that you'll read the history. I hope that the community will read the history and see how much energy has been put into this project already. It's truly a community effort. And we also put two letters in, the one from Watt Childress. Pretty much is what we ended up doing.
Yes.
Um,
And that was from January of 2021.
yeah, right. And then the NACUS report that was given to the Parks Committee, it's almost, it has all these different aspects of the center that are in existence now. So it's, to me, what we see in that design is very much a community effort. Okay,
So Dick has his hand up. I don't know if we want to just check in with him real quick or.
Oh, good. He's online.
Sure, welcome, Dick. Would you like to say anything now?
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I'm a bit late. But thanks for I don't know how much, Betty, you went over everything we talked about.
yes.
I just want to add and make sure to emphasize the fact that the National Park Service over the last 15 plus years has worked with the community and the tribe to piece together the story of that place and have brought a lot of resources, including the archaeological team that came out from Portland State last summer, plus about 10 years ago, they came out and did some studies. And they want to continue to work with the community, with the city, and with all of us as a planning committee. And I think there's some resources that they can bring that will be really useful in the future. And you saw all of the stuff that Doug has written. That was the tribe and the park service worked with Doug in creating that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, Doug's work, he's done so much of this already.
Yes. It's so good. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Dick, a question? I'm just going through the notes here, and it goes back to, maybe you just know the answer to this because it's you're mentioned, Doug Dewar's mentioned. In 2015, they were trying to get ground penetrating radar from the Grand Ronde. Did that ever happen? Was NACUS ever
Yeah.
radar?
Yeah. And that's what was done this last summer also. But
Yeah.
I think it was 15. I can't. Yeah, it's about 8 years ago. Yeah. They did a small piece of it, but this last summer they expanded the area and went out into the street and did a much bigger area.
And we never heard what came of that.
I'm sorry.
We never heard from the summer what came of it.
That's not public. They don't announce the results of those kind of surveys. So that is shared with your design team so they know where they need to be, but it's not something that gets published because of the
Yeah, there's some
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's
There is concern for the security at the site.
Artifact hunters might.
and earlier this year, we actually had somebody contact the city repeatedly about metal detecting there. And wasn't happy when we told them no, because it's an active site that could be added to the National Historic Registry. And so therefore that you're not allowed to do it on that site.
I did check in with them this summer on just about every day when they were doing the actual digging. I haven't asked about the grand penetrating radar and what that might have shown.
All right, well, that was my discussion. I think the educational stuff is done. to pass on to the nonprofit. I think it's, you flushed it out.
Yeah,
Pretty amazing.
I think we've done a lot of the research here. And we really need to be ready now for the advisory part. So how that gets presented in a more encapsulated form for the full council is probably the next step on this, but any other comments about educational programming?
Well, if, Dick, unless you've got something more to, I'd like to just briefly talk about, there's one page
Yes.
kind of in there that's got a thing that kind of looks like a calendar. One of the things that Betty and I took away was, I think a sense that we needed to identify what kinds of events, what kinds of classes, what kinds of things already exist within this community. Both to get a sense of what we don't want to conflict with, what we don't want to step on, but also to start understanding where those windows were that NACUS could fit in. So this is the last version that I put together, and let me just really quickly describe if very rough calendar, it's more or less month correct. It's certainly not to the day because I tried that and you simply couldn't even read it. But and then the columns align themselves with our state admission, right? Arts, culture, history, ecology. And then I added one more for community because it's important that this facility serves the people that live here. We talk a lot about, you know, the goals, the mission, and I think that's terribly important, but the community needs to get some bang for their buck as well. I mean, that's my opinion. And so I tried to take all of the things that Betty and I had identified and kind of bucket them into what category they might fit in. And that's all I did that on my own. So if you disagree that something's more like culture instead of art, I wouldn't even argue with you about it. But this at least starts to give you a sense of what our playing field might look like. The last two comments I think I'd make is simply that the green bar blocks out what's kind of spring breakish time frame, and then I kind of highlighted what I think we all consider the busy summer season. So we can start talking about when we get to that point, what makes sense and where it might fit. So that's what this was, just to offer it to the group to work with.
So again, kind of research, but not quite to the advisory stage yet.
Yeah, I don't feel that I can.
What do you mean? Not quite to the advisory.
I mean, we really have not answered what we're going to do seasonally, what the concerns policies are going to be, such as seasonal events, how they're going to fit and not compete. And
Okay.
So I think that eventually needs to be part of the recommendation that we make. I feel like this, you know, we're giving our findings to council for approval, which is the step before it gets to the nonprofit. So it feels like maybe, is there any other key policy matters that we want the committee to be looking at?
The only other one that I thought we were given was we needed to come up with something to give back to council as far as what kind of revenue streams might be associated with this operation. And to me, that meant what kinds of things are we going to offer free to the public and what kinds of things need to have some nominal charge. And again, research, we've looked at what our peer centers, you know, how they manage their business. And I think we can sit there and talk about what we see other people doing and I think even suggest things, and maybe that's what you're asking for. But I have hesitated to put that forward, you know, until.
And I'm not sure where
That's
that
really-
falls in our.
That's
fee
hard
structure.
to do because it's such an ad hoc thing, you know, as someone who puts on events, there's sometimes, you know, we're able to get somebody to present for, you know, little cost. Sometimes you need to get a grant to cover it. Sometimes you need to charge tickets, and it just really comes down to each. And that's a question to the nonprofit, I think.
I think though, we could talk about it in view of the schedule. Because if we take what let's presented here as just a kind of a ballpark of what would happen throughout the year,
Just a snapshot.
it's a real, no, it's, again, it's loose because we don't even know if some of these want to be at this facility. But it does shows up.
Oh, I didn't take it as the suggestion they would be at the facility. It's not to step on the.
No, I'm trying to say that if we looked at this in that light, it would show us what the openings
I
are
see.
so that we have availability.
Right.
Availability can be translated into a revenue stream. You can say, okay, we've got 400 hours available during whatever. And that then you can say, depending on what we find,
Look,
we could get.
looking just really quickly at this, 95% of those events are free.
Yeah, and we know for the most part what the current, how they're funded.
But I mean,
But I never did intend, and I'm glad you brought that up. I never intended to suggest necessarily any of these would be held at NACUS,
Right.
although we do have some feedback informally that some people probably would like to use our space, but I'm not making that assumption at this point.
yeah, I think
I'm just saying.
Haystack Rock Lecture Series is probably a likely one, and there may be others.
Sure.
But this is not intended to be, these are things at the site.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I do think one of our mandates is not to step on things that already exist and
Yes.
are sponsored by others in the community. That's not the intent.
Exactly.
Let me try another example. In the light that we know Get Lit is happening at a certain time, we're probably not gonna piggyback some other event at a time.
Right.
So
Yes.
the times that are the negative space are the ones that we could start saying, this is a revenue stream. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's where we can plug in the programming that has been outlined. Get back to Andrew's comment here, and I'm not sure how you're thinking about it, but I've kind of been thinking the work that that the educational committee is doing is more about what the center itself is going to produce. And I've been thinking it's more your committee that is going to be talking about third-party events and who gets it for free or who gets it for a nominal cost and what kinds of fees might be charged for other events, whether it's, get lit or whether it's conference.
I think the difference also is that the management of the facility is something that you hammer out, establish, and then use. Programming is continual. You're constantly redesigning it, you're remodeling it, you're updating it. So that's a continual part of what hopefully the board would be doing. Meanwhile, helping create the management system happens in a package, and they can tweak it later, but it's still
Yeah.
getting it started.
But I thought it'd be good to have some basic recommendations about who gets it for free or practically no charge. And I don't know if there are other policies, again, if this would be the time to begin discussing them, if there are other policies we want to see put in place.
Well, I suspect we all have at least some ideas, and maybe we could get those on paper for group discussion. I mean, I have some ideas that I would be happy to share. I just haven't done that.
On that topic of
Well, should we put the
third-party usage or?
education thing to bed before we move on?
So no, I'm thinking more about the business side of it. You know,
Okay.
what kinds of events in the community we're already used to getting at no charge, and the ones that have some fee, why do they have a fee? And then we could apply that to the kinds of events that we think we might want to offer. Some have supplies that, probably justify getting an additional fee. I think we've got we could put something together that said it might look like this, knowing full well that it's not going to be right, but we could do something like that. And kind of like what Sam is talking about with a schedule sort of like this, we know where the opportunities are to bring in a 3-day event. And we could talk about, well, what might that be worth in terms of revenue?
Now, my only question is that your committee or is that the third party
Well,
event committee?
Right now, it's this should be all about everything, but
I think we drew a line between.
Mostly this is about opportunities, like researching opportunities. So that's what you're doing, is researching opportunities. So we're laying down kind of the scope of opportunities. But it's not until we have more direction on restrictions and accessibility from council that we know what actually is going to get built. And then we have something physical to work with.
Not sure I'm following you.
Well, we have to get everything approved first so that we know
But
that
we're,
we actually have a mandate to have, that we're okay to have, larger gatherings or whatever. We just need to know what the actual working plan is for the center.
well, I think that's what we're here hammering out is a recommendation to council.
Well, yeah, I think that the recommendation is there with scope of possibility. But to go any further than scope is a little bit jumping before the horse, because the horse isn't out of the barn yet. So I could use that alliteration. So
I don't know, I'm
concerned. What if there is restrictions on actually, we don't have an approved plan for what we're doing. We
but
don't
that's
have.
what we're here to advise them
We're
on.
advising.
I think Carrie's talking about the physical.
Right. It's hard to put any kind of operating agenda
physical
in
structure?
place. Yes, until
Okay.
we have an approved structure.
All right,
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, you're talking about the meetings last, weeks that, they turned down everything.
Yeah.
So until we have that turned
It
around,
has a footprint, it's a retrofit. We know exactly, it's not going to,
yeah, it's not gonna change.
blown up and start again. It has a footprint. We know it's gonna,
Right, it's not going to be blown up.
I can't predict the future, but I would say we know we know what it looks like.
okay,
and I also think if whatever degree the building winds up.
right.
It's again, the footprint. So we've got square footage, we've got a facility happening. A management plan might have to be altered to change numbers and costs and stuff like that, depending on how valuable the building is. But managing it,
Mhm.
designing the programs that go in it, suggest a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I feel like it's
So
our responsibility to come up with recommendations
mhm,
on what third-party events are going to look like,
mhm.
how we're not going to compete with, we're going to compete minimally with existing facilities, but based on revenues or community good, or, that's something for us to kind of hash out and give full counsel. And then I can't predict, what everybody else is going to think about that, but
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to end up is making those kinds of recommendations.
You just make a stab at getting it on paper then.
And I'm still unclear who should be doing that, whether it's
Should be the the committee,
of the committees. Is it
the full, just everyone here.
Well, I think I mean,
I'm just like, is one of our subgroups gonna take a deeper dive into that and then we'll discuss it?
I think we need details before. We need to discuss it in this venue before we go into anything deeper. That's my assessment. An example, the overlapping, to me, a big concern that overlaps both the educational and the management is the seasonal.
Yeah.
I think we need to really have what is it we're looking at as far as seasonal. I think we had it. I thought we had it pretty good last time, but we need to get that down on paper because that's not, neither of us are covering it with any detail. Unless it's got.
Could we be adding that as a specific topic for the entire group? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Something to dive into right now, but
so what if I took the calendar and I do have it in more detail. It simply doesn't present work at Thorn that way and somehow put it together into different seasons where we could talk about what kinds of things are appropriate for different times of the year. Is that?
Rather than taking it back, let's just kind of see if we can get through it now. Right?
Well, I think we know
We're gonna
for
keep
sure, we're not
Eternity.
gonna plan any big events in the tourist season.
Right.
well, defining big events means like a 3-day weekend, all encompassing at the facility type event.
Yeah.
Because we might be having, farmers market might be moving there. We don't know that yet, but it might be moving.
I think that's a perfect.
Well,
It's a perfect
market.
But we haven't heard from higher ups
It's
saying.
probably gonna be moving there at least temporarily, if not permanently.
What I'm saying is that's a pretty intense use of the facility 1 day a week, all through the summer. The other big topic, part of that is the parking. We don't want to mess with the parking or have to mess with parking at that time of the year. So I think the summer season pretty much winds up being self-defined. No big things, nothing overly complicated, which opens up a big hole actually for static presentations. And that's what we started with a long time ago. This is, okay, this is the perfect time to have the tourists that are already here come enjoy the facility. They wouldn't have to park, they wouldn't have to do anything, they go through it at a certain timeline.
you could still have classes similar to, and then the art association has asked if they could move their venue, their summer camp there.
That's perfect.
You know, those are the kind of things, and Art in the Park was there the last 2 years. That would be, it's only 1 day, or it could actually be maybe 2 days. I mean, could expand it a little bit.
And maybe summer evenings for, a classroom thing.
Yeah,
are going to work.
absolutely.
So before we get along in that conversation, I think it is a conversation that sounds like everybody's in agreement we should be having here as this group as a separate conversation. And Andrew just made me, or Sam just made me think of this. In the educational programming you've got, we've got some interpretive things related to the trail, but as Sam mentioned, static displays within the center that are going to be that primary educational component are not necessarily defined here.
Well, that I see what Doug did could be in an inside situation.
But Doug is strictly on the cultural side of this. There's nothing on the nature center side.
You haven't,
I thought that's a given. I don't know how we're going back. But the center would be open for those interpretive functions.
Well, I don't think anybody said it wasn't.
No, I just don't know why we're
Oh,
circling around to it
I think
again.
he's talking about.
but I think Gary's saying that we haven't fleshed out the geologic and the with, the other aspects of it, and we haven't. But
The whole nature center side of it is not represented anywhere on the inside as far as
It
interpret.
has been sending lots and lots of curriculum and things that we could be offering in the summer. Amazing things on estuaries and wetlands and repairing, lots of stuff that he has already collected. So there's a lot coming.
Good.
No,
Yeah.
Then it's just another section.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
great.
it's still adding that section as I see what's missing here. Dick, did you want to?
I was gonna chime in, there's a lot of existing curriculum that we didn't include. That has been developed both by either school districts or tribes, and like Betty said, on the estuary and wetlands, there's some excellent curriculum that already exists. And so that piece is there. We just really didn't elaborate on it.
I'd like to add just briefly that my wife and I made a little trip a couple of weeks ago, and we went by the National Park Center at the whole rainforest. And then we managed to stop and spend an hour or two at the Dungeness Center.
Good.
I took a bunch of pictures, and I want you to, there is some really cool stuff there. They've packed a ton of information in what I thought was an amazingly small amount of space. And I think there's lots of ideas. I didn't think it was my place to promote that. That's really what the board and, the director really ought to be doing, but we've got some ideas. We just haven't fleshed them out, I don't think.
Right. Well,
I think-
We're just having listed.
I think we should
Yeah.
start to have some of that on
Actually,
paper.
I'm gonna go through it too, because I want to see their operation.
And some of this is going to be actionable possibly soon. We're supposed to hear about this Travel Oregon grant where we've got funding for interpretive videos as a request. And so we may have funding landing on our lap to produce 10 or 12 videos. And I kind of just to have that information and know some of the things that are key things we would want to start with would be helpful, I think.
okay.
One thing that I think we didn't delve into, and we had talked about meeting with, is it Andrea at the History Center? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is moving on to the history of Cannon Beach when the settlers moved in, and the development of the city of Cannon Beach that we want to make sure is included. But we haven't got together with the History Center to kind of talk about how to do that and not take from them, but coordinate and work with, partner with them on doing that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's where I see us going back and forth a little bit. We may have a 3-minute video about the history of Cannon Beach, but it would essentially end with, want more?
Yeah.
Go to the History Center.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the History Center kind of is on Nature Walk. If you went that far, it could be integrated into that too. So,
That's true. That's true.
right. I have some fun ideas for that nature walk. I think we should turn it into a scavenger hunt. I think it would be a lot of fun.
I thought, we went on a nature walk. I thought we were trying to define what the busy season was. Are we happy with June, July, August, September? Or I think it should be wider than that.
Really?
I think
Let's,
I think it will play itself out. We can
But it's part of our advisory.
we can start with
We can
that,
give them-
say, and then May 1 through September 30.
that we try to curtail
Yeah.
big events.
Yeah.
At first I was gonna say spring break, but April slows down.
You could take it to mid-October, but I like you including May. I think May for sure.
I would create a gray zone, make it more flexible. I would say the June to, or July to September is a hard no for large activities. Still activities, but no large impactful activities. The gray zones would, because that's where we have most of our big events
And
already.
when we define large, let's also say directly like tourism related activities.
That's hard to say because we're opening it for tourists during the summer.
Well, but I mean like, but
Events.
Events,
just events.
yeah, so we're not increasing the crush on during that time. So like, you know,
But you have spring unveiling generally.
Yeah.
April, May.
The first weekend.
So what happens is you have an outside event that may or may not use our facility, but could. Now, if it's using the facility in a minor,
I'm thinking about new
Impact.
things, not existing.
I mean, they used to have an art auction that was pretty impactful. I've never seen it ever that full. But that would be one night in the the gray zone that I call it. That would, could probably handle the parking throughout the entire neighborhood and not be that impactful during the day in a busier time of the year. So I guess that's why I'm saying what a gray zone would be.
I'm fine spending a few minutes talking about this. But rather than just talking, I want to know that either the education committee is taking this.
No, but we can just nail it down right now. I wanted to hear what Barb had to say.
I was just gonna say things like spring unveiling and those, me, I don't consider it, when I said May 1st through September 30th, I wasn't thinking about our locally generated
Yeah,
activities.
So before we go any farther, all we're going to be doing is talking about this and having it in the minutes. Who is going to be listening to this
We're
conversation?
gonna make a decision tonight.
yes,
We're not gonna have it be a committee.
No.
It's gonna be
you just nail it down now.
a committee agreement as to what our policy is gonna be for scheduling big tourists.
Okay, so, and it'll be in the minutes,
It'll be in a minute.
okay?
It is now.
Scheduling a
I
event.
got it.
What this does, Gary, it gives educational folks a chance to say, okay, this is what can't happen and can happen
Yeah.
in these two time periods. Gives the management folks time, places to say, this is where we can rent, where we can't rent.
Okay, let's give it 15 minutes.
Oh, my.
I like the way Barb's laid it out with May through end of September. And we're not including existing community-based events, but we're talking about, you know, the development of new large tourist draws.
And do we want to throw in a little bit about some of the gray?
I'm just saying, I guess is what you were saying was community-driven, large events that are already established could use the facility
yeah.
in that sense.
We're not throwing
We
any
don't
more
already
people
do
than-
those in the really busy traffic times. It makes it a little harder for somebody to create a new event. If we
A
wanted
new
to.
community event?
Well,
That would be okay based
Yeah.
on,
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's a TAC, like supported event,
or you know, a big event that's designed to draw people from out of town, even if it's private.
I think time of day is also part of this conversation.
Okay. So the peak months are May 1 to the end of September. Is that what you said, Barb?
or the valley months. Not peak.
Well,
Yeah,
depends on how you.
I did, I said, that was my suggestion.
Let's
My calendar, I don't
Knockouts.
include May, but so I need to include May.
blackout for big events during the day.
Not, not during the day.
May through September or June through September?
I'm
Really?
suggesting May,
Why?
because it seems it seems that's what our community is asking for, is to slow down the influx of people.
May is really that weird lag time between spring break and summer really
Yeah,
kicking.
May is the worst month for.
Pretty dead,
For what?
For the galleries, May is.
pretty dead. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I-
not great.
I would think
for
maybe-
Restaurants either.
Maybe blocking out
That's,
spring break and June to September.
Creating a spring break rule might be separate instead of
Right.
now, because spring break just is so variable.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it starts
depends on,
at the colleges on, the first week of.
it really goes through weeks and
March,
weeks and
it goes
weeks.
Through
Yeah, but this.
the middle of
But
April.
having an event during spring break, spring break is full anyway. So just having an event for during spring break is not a bad ad. It's not going to draw any additional people. We're already full.
It seems to me the
It's
problem,
just something that enhances our community,
it seems to me the problem is parking.
Mhm.
right?
That we
Yes.
don't want to use up parking during those key times
Right.
for an event. That's
That's-
really what we're trying to
So
solve
in other
here,
words,
isn't it?
you're saying advocating, don't do a day draw event.
Yeah.
That would cause people to drive out from Portland to come to something.
During,
One day.
Like
during spring break
coordination
or
kind of thing.
June
People
to
are just
September.
driving out for one day. Yeah. Okay,
That kind of makes sense.
Right.
The other thing is that the scheduling of spring break sometimes compacts and gets busier, and sometimes it spreads out. This last year was a very spread out spring break. You didn't really have the boom when we had the first week when it was Oregon. That's always busy.
That's always a roll of the dice with the
Yeah,
weather too.
so
Right, yeah, it's just.
I think this needs to be
The
the
crowds.
variable for the
Yeah.
management team to say, okay, that's just so they understand that
So
that's what we're saying.
no one's getting my point about this in the minutes, but would you mind like
that's scary. I will
sorting it out?
do
So
something.
trying to
I've got
trying to figure out what
calendar thingy,
consensus was so that
but
we've got one concise
we'll try.
recommendation.
But I think we've hit on an important point. I saw Bruce talk to the library a couple of days ago. It was just, and I thought he did a nice job when he was talking to a small group about the NACU Center and how it might, because there was a concern about lack of parking. I mean, that was one of the questions, and it's legitimate. But he did, I thought, a nice job of describing how we would push those events that required lots of parking to the opportunities where this, what is it, Second Street parking is more available, and how that we've got a nice walkway through the park that leads right to the center. I thought it was a nice way to phrase it. And so that may be a lens we can look at, the kinds of events that require lots of parking for whatever
It's not, I want
need to be steered to a different.
I want to piggyback what Barb said though about, representing what the community wants. Like, it's not just about parking, it's just about like, we're building a thing to attract tourists. And a lot of people are really exhausted. And, I feel like their community is being strained by, this onslaught of tourists. So it's not just about parking. Parking is a
It's-
huge concern, I get,
Crowds.
yeah.
too. But I'd be willing to talk about May. Not having May be a part of that locked out area.
Not being part of it blocked out.
Go June 1
June through September.
or May.
So you're saying first of September?
No,
No,
end of September.
End of September.
Till October 1st.
Yeah, I still think blocking out spring
Is that what you
break
say?
and
I-
June to
yeah.
September.
Rainy season it goes through May. And
Yeah.
starts in October.
Used to.
And then what kinds of things do we allow during those blackout times? So we don't want big events during the day.
I would even in the summer, I would question big evening events.
Yeah, same.
Just because we've got, if we're doing this, kind of the way I'm hearing, is we've got static displays during the summer months, that limits the use of the facility. It doesn't limit the gym, but it should limit the classrooms because you've got static displays on display. And you want them open all day long. And evening classes, be great.
I'll just
But
tell you how hard it is to get
concert or,
people to come inside for classes during the summertime. They're either too busy or
But evenings,
getting some sun for a change.
I think
Guys, in-
evenings for some folks, you'd find.
You guys envision this, the displays taking up all the space, I thought it was just more that first classroom space. And that we would have the other classroom
It's
ready for additional rental and or use.
We could
it's
also,
flexible for a temporary display.
Yeah,
with the
right.
2 classrooms, but yeah, I've been thinking. I don't know, lobbies mainly open with some interpretive, minimal interpretive. The next space is more heavily
Right.
interpretive,
Yeah.
and
That
then
could
the
be-
other 2 spaces are very flexible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If we had
that's what I thought too.
I'm gonna pull out another example. If we had a birding in the Northwest. Major display with, taxidermy and all that kind of stuff, filling one of the classrooms. We want it there for a while. We want people during the summer to be able to come see it.
Mhm.
So it just makes a challenge for renting a space for any sort of big event that we don't want there anyhow. So it just makes sense.
When I think
But that's just a matter of blocking on the operational calendar.
Yeah.
Right? You just block it.
Yeah.
And say that's because we've always, I think this committee has already said that that's always a priority. The priority is the educational part of it. And then we turn to third party or other types of inputs as they present themselves.
And management wise is what I would say is during the summer, these 3 or 4 months, whichever, 4 or 5 months, whatever we're looking at least that first classroom is blocked out for static displays. We don't know what it is yet, but hopefully we're gonna find it.
Let's stick on the,
3 classrooms.
The first one, the lobby
First-
plus the first one.
First of the 3. I don't know.
can we agree on the summer block out in one way or another?
seasonal block.
Seems like we have.
June 1st to October 1st, it's high season. Blocked out for additional public events.
And spring break.
Okay,
But how do you?
but spring
define
break will be
spring break?
defined, just like Sam was saying, it's gonna be defined by Oregon, Washington, and possibly private schools.
It's middle of March to the middle of April.
Okay.
I mean,
The problem with spring breaks, is it's so seasonally, I mean, weather dependent. If it rains the whole time, people don't come to the beach. And if they do, they go to Seaside so they can go to the arcade. that kind of thing.
so I don't know how we leave that flexible, though.
It is a different crowd.
Yeah.
That summer, but
But I think the point is it's still a crowd.
I think the point actually is,
Or
back to what Les was saying, we don't want a big parking event during those crowd days.
Right.
So that just needs to be.
Yeah.
Really well established in the board psyche.
And as Andrew was saying, I don't think we want any big tourist draw during those times.
That's. Yeah, the same.
We don't want to displace any parking. We don't want to be drawing more people to town.
Parking is the visible result of too many people in town, bringing too many people in town. Let me just add one little more tweak to this is the recreational aspect of the gymnasium. It might have a little use during the summer. I think it's gonna have more use during winter and spring,
Absolutely.
community wise. So in that sense, you have the evenings open, more likely.
Yeah.
Whereas hopefully during the week, during this winter, we've got the gym to use.
Well, we've talked informally about the potential for actually an early morning use for walkers and walking track and that kind of thing. I think the winter months, we see the gym needs to be available potentially
As much as it absolutely can be.
Right, yeah. For the resident.
And that's just blocking.
Yeah, I mean, for the residents or whoever's in town.
Open to all.
It's open to all.
Well, and let's see if there's a demand for it.
Yeah, I agree.
If I can jump in. We don't want to have programming that draws a lot of people in, that brings a lot of cars in, but yet when the town is full, we want to provide quality programming for those people that are already there. So we're kind of in a conundrum, I guess.
I think offering them the interpretive center is that middle ground.
Well, you can also do lectures in the evening.
Yeah.
We can do things like that. We can have classes. I think if we have the right kind of classes, I feel like we will be drawing people there in the summer. I mean, people could come to Cannon Beach to be here, but also to take some classes, or even restoration of, they can come and be here at Cannon Beach, but also be helping with the restoration projects.
Also,
Okay,
we've talked about the option of moving outdoor activities on rainy days indoors too, and not losing out on the music in the park. And
Yeah.
being able to say, being able to have that center available to stop gap on rainy days, to not lose all that time and energy that's gone into programming that was slated for outdoors.
Yes.
I don't want to let Dick's comment go unanswered or unelaborated on. A living history event at the interpretive center during those times seems perfectly appropriate, that we could be walking from downtown to see a living history event.
I've seen that happen. I've done that, actually at museums where the living history part is scheduled at, 1:00.
Yeah.
You come and you wander through the museum and you go, oh, I gotta come back at 1:00.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what this guy's. Those are really fun. That can also happen in a nature walk situation.
I don't think that's, it's not the big event blackout. It's more of just an enhanced interpretive experience. So I think that should be part of the plan. That's not a bad time to do what Dick is saying, to draw people who are in town for a living history experience.
It's also one of our better tools to get the hotels involved. Because they can then advertise it in their hotel as something that's open for you to go to.
Activity.
And there are activities at certain times.
And a lot of them have shuttles, so they can
That's
do
what-
the shuttle
Hoping the shuttle part. Yeah,
and maybe get our town shuttle back.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've got an hour left and we still need to talk about 2 subcommittees. What more do we need to talk about as far as these seasonal policies and events?
It's in the minutes.
I think we've confirmed it pretty.
Okay, you feel like we're
Happy.
good?
Yep.
Les, are you?
Want to add anything about not the summer season, but the wraparound, again, the calendar you created is not to, if to conflict with other things that are going on, like the Coos schedule is a big old thing, the same weekend as.
No,
or-
I think part of our policy needs to be that we intend to complement all of the nonprofit, all of the organizations that have events
Okay.
and not
Okay.
conflict.
And I have a check audio.
Say that again, Barb.
I want you to say it again. Your concern would be there might be other major events during the other times of year that we want to make sure we're not competing.
Yes.
I think, I agree. I think it's a management discussion rather than a seasonal discussion,
Yeah.
even though they happen at a different season. And I think that is a good segue into the management because obviously those people creating the schedule, blocking out the calendars need to be very aware of what else is going on in town and who else is capable of partnering with the facility or even wanting, to be aware of what's going on.
So just as more of a general policy, we're trying not to compete with
Right.
other large events that are happening outside of our blackout
You
windows.
think of other large organizations like churches, schools, colleges, they all have master boards. They all have, everybody has to check the master board. Everybody has to, collaborate. And that's how everything, that's how things move forward. So I don't see any problem with just making that a mandate for our director and our leadership, our board, is that there will be a collaborative, even if we're the ones that have to start it, with a community calendar that's complementary. I think it's going to help everybody.
I think so too. That's a great collaboration opportunity.
Yeah, you set the calendar, this is your point, and then to Sam's point, you are opportunistic. When you see a hole, nobody's put something in that square, and you see an opportunity, it's great to float the idea, but it's yours to take it and use that opportunity in your space.
And when you look at all the empty space there is in the winter, there's going to be a lot of fun to be had if we just get our brains in gear.
I think it'll help everybody.
Yeah.
And all of this will help everybody.
Okay, so the other related topic is pricing or policies related to pricing. Do we want to talk about that? Do we want to leave it to management? Or do we want to make some broad, we've already talked about free or nearly free to nonprofits, local nonprofits?
Nonprofits to benefit the local area.
I think we already have it down. We have.
It's all in our
great
heads.
examples.
It's all in our heads. I would
No,
just
it's
like it.
actually in the report. So there's lots of examples in the research that we've already done of price points and also things that got charged for less, provided some really good information on other centers that have charging. It's just a matter of us having a director that decides to put this into play. And
So
of
you're saying we're
course,
gonna leave
it's
it for the director. We're not gonna set a policy.
Is there anything else we need to decide on that?
We've talked about it enough, but I think there's some things that we might need to just pinpoint.
I would
because
be more comfortable if we have a brief
Some
description of what we're.
I think the council needs something to grab onto. It definitely would need a caveat saying that situations change once the director's in place. They're gonna go with the market, and they're gonna work with the community, that kind of something. But this is a potential that could happen. So we've got nonprofits that are popping up and they're gonna be for free, but we might have to also consider, what about the lights? What about some of those types of things that they have to share in? We also have to consider, is it a admission or non-admission type event? So if somebody's paying, to have a ticket to go in, maybe that event gets a little bit of a higher bite than somebody is doing a free event or doing a private event. We haven't really talked a whole lot about private events. I don't see a whole lot of that happening right now, but it could. I had another thing. We're going on up into full-scale large events where somebody might come in and put in a whole get lit type of thing. Like, well, let's do a big one all at the facility only. That's a whole different ballgame. And especially if it's coming from an outside source.
That would be our revenue stream.
That would be our revenue.
Kinds of events.
But again, we've also got to really consider, we can't just have free events all the time. something's got to pay for this place. The operational end of it.
Right.
Grants can do it. Grants can do it. Hard work.
It's hard to get grants for operational money. I mean, it just is.
So
And thoughts on minimizing competition with other existing venues? Is there anything policy wise that we can wrap our heads around that where we're not necessarily, we're not here to compete with our,
I think that
stakeholder partners.
policy wise, I would try and instigate a conscientious connection to all of our other venues. So in the sense that say, we have this nice facility, it just happens to be in the place where Lewis and Clark were. And the state comes in and says, hey, we want to do a Lewis and Clark thing. Well, we're going to contact the History Center and say, hey, these guys, you're the ones that, so we need to work together with that venue because it's a history thing coming to us. Same thing would happen with music. Is there music on a night when there's music in the park? With that. So.
No, because if it rains, the music in the park is going to the.
How do you feel about, like, if I go to the zoo in Honolulu, I pay a price. If I'm a local, it's cheap. If I'm a visitor, it's a little more. But it gives a constant stream. Like if somebody walked in the door, they're going to be getting a lot of education. Maybe it's static, maybe it's not, but we just went to the not the Dungeness, but the one on the gorge. And I paid $12 to go in and see what they had to offer. They had movies, they had nice interpretive signs, but it was worth it, and it helps. Is that something we don't want to think about at all? Just.
But this is such an interesting thing because when the council raised the lodging tax, the pool became enormous. So it doesn't necessarily need to generate revenue as a normal.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Start out.
That's the
Maybe we'll
hope and
find
the assumption.
that it is something that
Yeah,
is going to be worth
We're gonna
$5.
we're gonna learn a lot
I
in
think
the
that's-
first year or two.
I've been to places that have suggested donations too.
Yeah.
It's not required, it's free, but there's a suggested donation. So
But but you said earlier about like, if somebody's charging a ticket. Yes, they have to be share in that.
Mhm.
You can't just be used to make profit on the back of the.
Right.
Right.
But I also think it's the quality of the presentation. I mean, if we're doing a static display. And it's produced by Oregon State University's geography and geology department. Probably pretty impressive, and I would definitely ask for a donation on that one, if not a charge.
Yeah.
But if somebody's doing, some kids' art and, feathers they found in the woods. It's.
Those turkeys go out their hand.
Yeah,
That's my
I'm
kind of
just
art.
saying that there's a value range that we would put on it.
Sure. And, again, I think specifically for native related presentations, those people need to be paid. So there's maybe that's some grants, but there, like a lot of people don't have the means to, zip in here and offer something for free. It's not going to work that way.
That's
Well-
probably where grants are gonna be a major thing for that kind of programming.
Actually, grants are really helpful for folks who are designing the displays. So we might actually find people who say, I've got a such and such a display that I've used and I've got a grant money and I've funded it. Now I just need to present it. Where can I present it? We got a spot.
I have a sense that there's a lot of topical displays that have been created that are available and they just rotate around. I know that Fair Park in Dallas seems like every month or, something comes through. And I know there's a charge associated with them, but that stuff's already in existence and a lot of it's top notch. This is the kind of place that could show that.
Okay, you think we got a pretty good sense of policy at this point? We got a few minutes to cover the rest of the agenda here. Actually, I don't know that we need to continue at the venue work. We got a very complete list of venues, I think.
Yeah, that was very good. Thank you. Research.
I included in the packet the Friends of Haystack Rock bylaws, just because it's got some of the nuts and bolts template kinds of things in it. But I had a very busy October. And so I've actually started to draft some of that. But we can hold that and I can bring that back to you next meeting. I did take a shot at a mission statement. I took 4 of the top other facilities and looked at their mission statements, and I created one that I'll run by you. If again, I didn't have this done to include it as part of the packet, but the mission of and for a placeholder, I've got a name in here, but we'll be accountable on this. The mission of the Nakus Heritage and Nature Center is to share the story of the cultural and historical site of the Nakus village, to inspire understanding, respect, and stewardship of our coastal environment, and enrich our community with an emphasis on education, arts, and events. Anything strike you that you'd like?
Education, arts, and events. The events rings like, oh, I can do anything.
Yeah, I would strike that events part.
Events is in that sense, it is a
You don't like events being included there?
The word.
the word events is an all-encompassing term that could mean damn near anything.
Yeah.
So that's the only.
I mean, I just, the site, education, should cover.
Yeah.
I don't think there are events that enrich our community.
Oh, yeah, I do, but there.
You don't think they should be in here?
They could also be events that wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's
Arts,
still an event.
arts, what? Arts?
Say that last thing.
Last part of the sentence is, and enrich our community with an emphasis, education, arts, and events.
Education, arts, and heritage.
About, I thought it was.
We've already
education.
kind of already got cultural,
Education,
historical,
art,
and then-
ecology. I thought it was what we were.
Yeah, what about ecology?
And
well, we've
ecology.
already got to inspire understanding, respect, and stewardship of our coastal environment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's fine.
Read the last sentence again.
The last portion of that
Sentence,
sentence.
please. Yeah, well, yeah.
And enrich our community with an emphasis on education, arts, and events.
Can I just point out to you that this is tourism funding, so to have that not be in your statement kind of goes against our funding source.
The word events.
Not be,
But if you don't use the word events, you have nothing that ties you into that funding source. It sounds like a.
Say visitors, so we had the word
No,
visitors.
get rid of and. And includes it as a noun. I mean, it says this is for events. If you say education,
I don't know if,
events and art events.
does the nonprofit itself need to be held to that? I don't know if the nonprofit has to be tied to talking about tourism.
Well, there,
I actually think that we will be fulfilling, and I made that comment to
Yeah.
Carrie's response that and it's kind of Andrew's point about, not like we need to demonstrate some kind of ROI on this. We need to make sure it's,
Return on investment.
sorry. We need to make sure that it's something that's going to be of interest
Mhm,
to people.
mhm.
But the
The
mission
idea of
statement,
starting a nonprofit to, like, yeah, to do tourism, it
well, I
makes
think,
me want to melt.
well, isn't nonprofit? I mean, what does Haystack Rocks, Friends of Haystack Rock, what does their mission statement say?
It's in here, but I don't want to spend too much more time talking about this.
I think you got it. I think it's 98% there.
Yeah,
Strike events and I'm good with it.
so I'll put it in writing and then we can, decide on the events part and whether that should be in there or not, or if there's another word
How
for
about
it.
activities which enhance, like you said? So go ahead and just print it out so we can look at it.
Yeah.
I think we can do it and work around.
The mission of Friends of Haystack Rock,
If you
it's,
say activity instead of events, you're saying the same thing without saying events.
yeah, it might be,
It's activities pertaining to,
that might.
and
solve
that
it right
scope
there.
can mean a lot of different things.
The mission of Friends of Haystack Rock is to promote the preservation and protection of the intertidal life and birds that inhabit the marine garden and Oregon Islands National Wildlife Refuge at Haystack Rock. We do this in cooperation with Haystack Rock Awareness Program and other partnerships. So
Mhm.
actually, some of the other mission statements of other centers, other facilities were really good. And it's like I stole most of their words.
That's okay.
Uh,
I mean,
Okay, you'll see that on paper next time. Was there anything else on the bylaws in particular that struck you that you'd want me to address as I edit some of this?
I think we need to, if we can find a nonprofit that has a municipality attached to it. Because there's gonna be some things that are going to need to be in the bylaws as it's attached to a city
okay.
rather than
But consider this, Barb.
the food pantry, but that isn't one.
But what about, the city gives money to so many nonprofits for the community grant, but they're not. Like the lease would be the part where they're inextricably, with the contract, the lease, but like. Maybe there's a way for the city to. Move that money around. That doesn't mean it's, the city.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What the bylaws need to have a reference up to is the contract.
Right.
The contract then defines.
Yeah.
what Andrew's.
That's where I was.
Well, another reason I bring that up now is Lisa Kerr has talked a lot about the fact that we need to make sure our bylaws are in line with being funded through the municipality.
And I'm assuming we're gonna kind of get a rough draft. Attorney type.
Yeah.
So. All right. Schedule future meetings.
Okay.
I feel like we should get something to the council it's time to. Get another set of recommendations back and.
What's that?
I feel like we should maybe wrap this up after one more meeting is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's time to wrap it up.
Let's set one more meeting and hopefully we'll have our recommendations and research in place and we can see if we're on track.
I wouldn't hold yourself to a timeline.
I know. Just
What we're gonna do is we're gonna start writing things down and creating a draft of what we want to present. That's gotta get going back and forth a little bit. So you gotta say, there's gonna be a couple instances where at least there's some back and forth discussion about what we're presenting.
Back and forth here.
So
Well, I certainly hope we.
if by the next meeting, we had as much as we could pretty well drafted out, then we can start doing the editing.
That's the intention.
Okay.
If we don't make it, then we'll set another one.
But in terms of presenting to council,
We're not even gonna worry about that right now, are we?
No, I wouldn't think so. We got
Uh,
that next one.
Was part of our resolution a date to report?
I don't believe we had a steadfast date. I think we had like, we wanted it as soon as possible, but I don't think there was an actual date.
Okay, can you help us pick some dates?
Yeah, so how far out do you guys want to meet? Do you want to wait another week, 2 weeks? What are your thoughts?
At least two.
Okay, so if we did 2 weeks, so today is November 2nd. If you want to look at the week of November 14th, so council has a meeting on Tuesday, the 14th. And design review board is on Thursday, the 16th. The chambers are available Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but really meetings on Friday are kind of,
No Friday.
How about Thanksgiving week, the 20th, 21st, or 22nd?
the planning commission is on the 21st.
Did you say the 13th, Jen?
The previous week, yes, Monday, the 13th.
I have another meeting on
Yeah, I
the
can't.
evening of the 13th.
14th?
That's less than 2 weeks. That's
14th,
my
we have
concern.
city council meeting.
How about one of the 20th or 22nd?
22nd is the night before.
Yeah,
I
are
can't-
people,
I-
are
I'm
people
not available.
traveling
Yeah, I'm
for,
not available after the 20th. I can do the 20th, but not anything for the rest.
how's everybody look for the 20th
I can.
Okay.
and 20th on this
Yep,
schedule?
we can do the 20th at 5:30.
Can we put that down? 20th at 5:30?
Yep.
Okay.
You have a reservation?
Yeah, mom's got a treatment that day, but I'll be available in the evenings.
It will 5:30 work.
If not,
Is
I'll
6
be a little
better?
late.
And Dick, you said yes?
Yeah, yes.
We could go 6 if that make it,
I'll let you know.
okay.
Okay,
So if we are meeting on Monday, November 20th, my packet would go out Monday, November 13th. So if you guys can get your information to me before Monday, the 13th, I mean, or let's say noon on Monday, the 13th, I can do the packet in the afternoon.
Noon on Monday, the 13th.
Yes,
you said the 13th?
correct, because it's 1 week ahead of time.
Okay, do we have anything for good of the order? Well, we got 5 more minutes.
No. Okay, well, I'd like to thank everyone for being kind and respectful during this.
Yes. Very nice, and we're getting things done. So. If there's nothing else, thank you all, and this meeting is adjourned.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, Dick.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye-bye.